and welcome back to the Modeling Success in Action podcast. I'm your host, Jessica, and today I am joined by Ryan Wanaguru, the Physio Guru. Ryan is an Australian physiotherapist who has two wellness clinics, Mount Pleasant and Kitsilano. He's always outdoors, whether it's hiking, running, biking, etc., and he's always with his family. His goal is to improve the quality of physiotherapy and massage therapy in Vancouver. Welcome, Ryan. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. This is fantastic.
So, when you say your goal is to improve the quality of physio and massage in Vancouver, what does that mean to you?
I feel like there are a lot of clients who are a little bit disappointed with the service they've received prior to coming into my clinic. And what I want to do is change the model of the way that physiotherapy in particular is delivered in Vancouver to a model where perhaps clinics aren't trying to get clients back in for repeat visits. Instead, what they're trying to do is have people be fit, healthy, and do exactly whatever they want. Their physical activities, get from A to B, do anything they want pain free. I think it's a much better way to do things.
So,
It's
how
the
do you
way I'd
achieve?
like to do it. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Like I was going to say, how do you achieve that? Like, how is that like, because that's, you're saying it's different from the standard model where people are going, you're going to have your regular visits come back in, once or twice a month and, ad nauseum forever. So like, what's the difference in the way that you're approaching this? What's your model?
Sure. So it's a twofold idea. The idea is, I think some clinics might be putting pressure on people to book people back in. I don't put pressure on my staff to do that at all. I want them to get people better as quickly as possible. So there's no pressure from top down. And then the second one is I personally educate all my staff one on one as a group, whatever they need, just so that their knowledge and their quality of the delivery of service is significantly higher so that we can achieve our outcomes.
I'm curious, do you ever have because I mean, I'm not necessarily a wellness practitioner, right? I'm kind of a coach or an educator as a hypnotist, right? I'm looking at human behavior, but I've been in the wellness sphere. I've worked in a lot of clinics where there's lots of wellness stuff going on. And what I've seen in some situations is like a patient will come in and they've got a certain complaint, and then they start to get whatever treatment, chiro, physio, acu, whatever it is, right? They start to have that. And then they're feeling like they don't know the plan. Like they're not sure when they need to be booking back in. They're not sure what they need to be doing. And they're feeling like, out at sea almost a little bit. So, when you're saying that you're not teaching the staff to like make people come back in and they're not, how are you having it? Like what's the client experience like for that to know that they've got a plan?
Sure. So with the initial appointment being 45 minutes long, I try and get the staff to accurately diagnose a problem. And if you can accurately diagnose a problem and then give somebody a realistic timeline, how long it's going to take for them to get better.
Mhm.
So for example, I've got patella tendonitis, right? Then what you can do is you can say, this problem can be better in a couple of weeks as long as you're very diligent with the program. And that way you empower the person to do their exercises independently. That way you empower the person to not be reliant upon the practitioner. And I think that way you get better compliance with exercises. And then you also pass the burden of accountability a little bit onto the client a little bit more.
So you're
So
empowering them to chase their outcome.
that's the plan, right? So you say, look, like this, I've seen this take 3 weeks, I've seen this take 3 months, right? And I go, look, the common factor, the differentiating factor was how many times did the person do the exercises? How diligent were they with what they were doing? And that way, that person is thereby educated, thereby empowered, and I think their compliance goes up significantly. I think they understand their role in their rehab rather than I'm going to see you once a week for the next who knows how long, and that'll be that.
Right. And then they feel dependent on you, like somehow you're the savior rather than them realizing that it's actually up to them. Right.
Precisely.
In life, like when we're trying to fix something for ourselves, realizing that we actually have way more power than we're giving ourselves credit for kind of sets us free. Right.
100%.
Yeah. So,
Exactly.
okay. So what is it that, that's driving this approach for you? Like, did you have an experience of being dragged out with the healing process? Where did this come from for you?
I haven't had that experience. I'm pretty lucky. I've been pretty healthy my whole life. I think it came from one guy who is actually one of our common friends, Connor's friends. This is like 5 years ago. He had 100 and something treatments of 180 something treatments of physio. And Connor was like,
That's
buddy, can
not.
you just try and get this person better for the weekend? We're in a 3-day golf tournament and I'd really like this guy to be able to play. And so I treated him twice and he was better and the problem was solved. And so I thought,
How do
that's
you
the way
go
it
from
should be.
180 to two? Like,
Yeah, I don't get it. So I thought, okay, well, this is this is clearly not the experience people are having all the time. This is the experience I would like them to have, and this is the experience I would like all of my staff to be able to deliver. And that's what we've done since then, and it's been great.
that's awesome. That's like that's a pretty staggering testimonial there to go from 180 visits, which, it's not inexpensive to have wellness treatments. I mean, we are lucky here in Canada that we have some coverage and stuff like that, but when it comes to like that kind of continued care, it's usually out of pocket for the long term, right? So,
Hmm.
how do you like obviously you're a practitioner. The whole reason that you're in this is to help people be well, and it's really, it's awesome for your clients to see that they can come see you a handful of times and be, self, holding themselves accountable and doing what they need to do outside of it, and that continues the wellness. But like when you were talking at, you know the side of a practitioner side, and the model is like, 180 visits being paid versus 100 versus two visits being paid. That's a difference, in how your clinic's being run, right? That's a difference in how much money you're paying, to keep the lights on and the staff and that kind of thing. So like, how do you look at it? What is your view and your perspective on it, that you can do that and know that you can still have a successful business?
Yep. So it's a twofold idea. One is, I think everybody gets into healthcare, gets into it to help people. So that's what I want all the staff to be able to do. Everybody wants to do an honest job. So I want all my staff to feel that they can deliver that. And then my real opinion is that if I had knee pain or back pain, and I've had it for years, right? Like years and years and years of back pain, no one had fixed it. I'd seen a bunch of practitioners, no one could fix it. And then somebody fixed it in 8 weeks with minimal hands-on work, just a lot of education, a lot of real management. And then all of a sudden I was just pain-free.
Mhm.
Then I would not stop talking about that situation,
Yeah.
right? I would be out for drinks with my friends on Friday. I'd be like, I'm finally out of back pain. This is the story. And so the amount of word of mouth referrals has been amazing. And that's been the way that I've wanted to grow the business. And that's the way the business has grown,
Mhm. So you're just trusting that as you run this business in an integral way and actually give real value to people, that value comes back to you.
without doubt.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, because it's true. A lot of people are running around in fear, right? They're thinking, I gotta milk this for all it's worth because who knows when the next, cow's coming in, right? Like it,
Mhm.
it can be that kind of thing in this world. And like, I mean, I've definitely, seen it. Well, like they've got lots of money, just keep them coming back, right? Or it's like almost like you're kind of handicapping them in a way because they're feeling like they're beholden to you, like you're the secret key to making them better, when really
Yeah.
you're showing them, how it is. So do you have anything to share with like people who are in the same position as you? Maybe they're an RMT, maybe they're an acupuncturist, maybe they're who knows, but they're wanting to build a business from this model. What's your mood? What's your attitude about this? What are you focusing on? What's important to you?
Good question. So my attitude is that, and I've had this conversation many times in the last couple of months. Everybody who went to physio school or massage therapy school went there for a reason. They didn't really go there to make stacks of money. If they wanted to make stacks of money, they might have gone into finance or some banking or like day trading, something of
Yeah.
that nature, right? They got into it specifically to help people, and they wanted to do generally patient to, so like one-to-one care. And so when I'm interviewing people, I want everybody to understand what the model is. I want them to be comfortable with that. If someone's opening a clinic, then I think they themselves need to make the decisions in their own mind as to how and why they're opening that clinic. Are they opening it to make lots of money? in which case this model is probably not the right model, right? It does make money, there's no question. It's a successful set of businesses, but it's not being run specifically like a business. It's not being run like these people are like, as you described it, just like cogs in the machine or cows to be milked. They're being treated as people. What I try and tell my staff to do is think of anyone who comes through the door as a member of their family, right? Because I previously have probably undertreated people because I've been concerned about their finances. And so the way that I try and get the staff to think about it now is think that this is your mom, your brother, or your daughter, or something like that. And think if they have knee pain, what would they actually need in order to get better? They might need to see you more than you potentially would see them because you're concerned about their finances, but they might need to see you more in order to actually get better.
Mhm.
They definitely don't need to be overseen by you. And I think if you treat everybody as if they're a family member, or you treat their knee or their back or their shoulder as if it's your back, knee, or shoulder, you're going to do the best by that person. And that's the whole business. That's it's
Mhm.
not even a business, that's just the whole way to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in hypnosis and in the method that I'm working in the Master Hypnotist Society, Scott McFall is, he was the founder and he's still around and leading all the trainers trainings. And one of the things that he's really saying is when you're looking at a client when they come in, you want to look at them from cradle to grave. You want to be looking at their whole life and going, what's happening with this person? What's the real life stuff? What do they need to learn? What do they need to do? What change needs to happen to get them to where they want to go? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking at somebody that's got a knee injury and you know that they're a dancer, right? And you know that they're like a busy working mom who loves to dance and that's how she, gets her stress out and whatever, you're going to be looking at that differently than somebody who maybe is way more, sedentary or there's something else going on. They might need different modalities and shifts and changes to support them and they're where they're actually at.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
And respecting them as a person and
Yeah.
treating them properly.
Mhm. Awesome. So what like when you're interacting in life in this way, are you like what kind of feedback are you getting from life? What are you noticing that maybe is there anything that surprised you?
Nothing.
Nothing. You it's
I've
all
kind of
expected.
Uh, I think pretty hard about the stuff that I do, and
Okay.
I try and figure out what the outcome is going to be before it happens.
Hmm.
And I figure if I work pretty hard and do my part in the process, then everything will generally unfold the way that I have expected it to. As long as I do everything I have to do, generally everything unfolds the way that I would like.
And that's another NLP thing. What we expect is what tends to be realized, right? So if we expect it to go well, if we know that we've got a plan in place and we can see the outcome and we're just executing on that, then most of the time things are going to work out the way they need to. And if there's a bump in the road, we can then respond to it a little bit more flexibly than if, we're expecting things to go sideways. And then when it goes sideways, all of a sudden it's panic, right?
100%.
Yeah.
That's a concept in this Nicholas Nassim Taleb book, Anti-Fragile. It's
Okay.
talking about a business can adapt to small changes constantly and thereby over a period of time become stronger because it's dealt with many small setbacks.
Mhm.
Whereas a company that isn't as flexible will end up being shocked very hard by one or a large event that could disrupt it completely.
Mhm. Yeah. So are there times when, I mean, so Ryan's got, like I said at the beginning of the show, he's got two clinics in Vancouver here. There's one in Kitsilano, one in Mount Pleasant. The Mount Pleasant one is the newer location. It's a larger location. So were there places where you actually had to get flexible with this expansion of the business? What have you noticed there?
No, not flexible, just
Yeah.
patient.
Just
Yeah.
patient. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
because the kids clinic has done so well for such a long time. The model's been exactly the same. People know what they want. They want to come in, get better, but get educated on what the problem is. And so it's just about being patient, hiring the right people, and delivering great service, great product.
mhm. It's interesting that you say not flexible, just patient. And in my perspective, I'm like, that could be flexibility though, right? Instead of being like, it's got to be like this, it's got to be like this, go, go, go. And it's just one way. You can let yourself have the patience. You can let yourself have the
Yeah,
wiggle room, right?
very
That's,
true.
that's kind of interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, so for those of you listening, I don't want to shock you. This is going to be a slightly shorter episode than normal. So as we wrap things up, Ryan, is there anything that like you think would be useful to leave with people who are listening today, to help them be more willing to step into your model of the world and this trust that you have?
Sure. I read stacks of books. The thing that I read all the time is that to have a successful business is mostly turning up every single day and doing a job. There are a lot of people who will quit. There's a lot of people who won't put in the work. If you turn up every single day and put the work into your job and into your business will very likely be successful. It will have a significantly higher chance of being successful. And there's one other thing that I read in a book a couple of years ago that I've since found to be very true is that the common factor amongst very successful people, I can't remember exactly what the metric is, I'm pretty sure it's CEOs or people who make above a certain amount of money, is not skin color, height, gender, sex, I don't know, where they're born, what country, this, that, this. It is they work out more than 4.5 days a week. And the working out more than 4.5 days a week is very similar to the consistency that I'm talking about when it comes to turning up to work every single day. If somebody turns up to work out every single day or 4.5 days a week, they're showing that they will turn up every single day to work. And it correlates from more than just exercise and fitness, it correlates to work and life.
Yeah.
That's what I'm finding with all the staff I hire.
It's so true. It's that ability to hold yourself accountable regardless of what else is going on in your life, right? Because there are
Precisely.
going to be days when you're feeling tired or where you got a bad mood or where something has, maybe your hormones are off. And it can be easy on those days to be like, oh, well, I'll just skip it. Or, oh, I'll just, but to be able to choose, you're like, I've made this one big decision. I've made the decision that I'm going to show up for my business. I've made the decision I'm going to show up for my body, for my health, for the food that I'm eating, for the exercise that I'm putting in. And as long as you keep showing up, right, it can be very easy. I see this all the time with weight loss clients. They have a shitty day and it's right into the cookies, right? And it's not because it's not about the decision that they've made for their weight loss. It's about, responding to the mood of the day. And so when we can be showing up regardless of the mood, regardless of the situations, and you show up for your business, you show up for that workout, you show up for the food that you want to be eating. That's that's how we get our own success. That's I think that's a beautiful piece of advice there, Ryan. Thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here. So I'm going to leave all of your details below. If anybody wants to reach out to Ryan, if you've got an injury that you've had to see 180 appointments and you're ready to get it done within two, you can find Ryan at either of those clinics, and you'll be able to reach out to him there. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I really appreciate you.
Thanks, Jessica. That was wonderful.